Hey folks, Libby here once again. Welcome back to another video. Another video on Arrow as a part of my TV show collection video on my YouTube channel. Thank you for the 322 subs, guys. We're getting close to 400. And I'm sorry about Arrow Season 1 being a 3-hour video. If this video hits up to 2 hours, because I can't really, or, gets close to 3 hours, I'll probably do part 2 of this, so I do have a thumbnail. But anyway, guys, I've been doing a superhero marathon on my YouTube channel. I've been talking about the TV shows, superhero shows, mainly the Arrowverse. I will talk about some Marvel shows, of the MCU, but first MCU and the Incredible Hulk series from the 70s with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. But for now, we're going to talk about Arrow. And as I said, I talked about Arrow Season 1. And now I'm talking about giving my thoughts slash favorite episodes of Arrow Season 2, which in my opinion is the best season. This and Season 1 are the best seasons of the show. This was a great season. I loved it. Really great episode. Great season, in my opinion. Loved it from start to finish. Really well done. I like how they introduced Barry Allen. This is not a crossover episode. No, no crossovers. But we do get to introduce the character Barry Allen in this season. It was a really great season. Loved it. It is a shame that the show kind of went downhill from there after this. But I don't know. I remember liking Arrow season 3. But let's just wait for my thoughts more on the seasons as we go downhill. We're just starting. So here's my list for. I did have two okay episodes. Yeah, there's my list for my favorite and okay episodes of Arrow season 2. Remember, this is just my opinion, folks, on the show. If you disagree with me on something on the show, even one of the seasons, that's fine. But the show does keep the realistic tone. It does keep the tone from the first show. It does change up things a bit. Of course, being a second season, we get different characters as well. In season 2, we have a new villain. Of course, that is Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke. Kelly Hu does come back. Michael J. White, the awesome Michael J. White, plays Bronze Tiger in here. And Katie Lutz, it's her first. Katie Lutz, her first time playing Sarah Lance, the White Canary, or just the Canary in this season. Uh, you have Kevin Alexandro as Sebastian Blood. Let's see, Summer Glichet as Isabel Roche. Okay. Anyway, let me talk about the plot synopsis. Now, there are spoilers. If you have not seen Arrow Season 1 or Season 2, or the show at all, turn the video off anyway. Just turn the video off because you don't want to spoil it for yourself. So, the plot synopsis for Arrow Season 2. So, Season 2 does take place after Season 1. Malcolm won. He killed about 503 people in the undertaking. Following the death of his friend Tommy Marlin, who was Malcolm's son, Oliver vows no longer to kill. He also gets a mask in this season. He no longer has the green makeup, but he does get like a mask, kind of like a Robin mask, to hide his to morally hide his identity. So that way he can look up at people. They don't recognize his face. Of course, he's got the hoodie on still. He operates under now, not as the Hood, but in the show, in the season 2, the Arrow. He is tested when the city comes under attack from Slade Wilson, which does have to do, we do get flashbacks. Spoiler alert, Sarah Lance, she's alive. We thought she died in the first season, but Sarah's alive. She's called the Canary. We figure out she works for the League of Assassins. And then he gets they get a new ally. Not just, she becomes an ally for the Arrow team with Felicity Smoke and John Diggle and Roy Hopper, who he begins to train and eventually Oliver shows his identity to. Yeah. He also struggles to balance his vigilante activities alongside his role as CEO of Queen Consolidated. This season sees the return of Sarah Lance, known also as the Canary, as well as the introduction of also Argus, Governor H.C. Argus, led by Amanda Waller. The flashbacks see Oliver face a new threat on Lian Yu, a man named Dr. Anthony Ivo. And a personal friend of Oliver's gets killed, and this lets Slade Wilson to get revenge, and Slade does come to see Oliver in the city, but now known as Deathstroke, revealing the origins of his feud with Slade. And we get on to the past seasons. I'll discuss more, but that's the plot synopsis of the season. And if you have not seen Arrow season 2, which I say highly recommend it, season 1 and 2, especially season 2, still my favorite season. All right, all right. And my first favorite episode of season 2 is called City of Heroes. That's a good piece of shit. Sorry. What are you piece of crap? No. I talked about that episode. Alright, season 2. That is City of Heroes. This season opens up with Oliver. We see him. Oliver went back to the island. He feels guilty. This was after the incident with Tommy. Tommy, like I said, died. The building collapsed and he got stabbed and he died in Oliver's arms. And Oliver felt guilty that he felt the city. He felt Tommy. He did successfully kill Malcolm and defeat Malcolm, but Malcolm won. Malcolm managed to kill 503 people in the Glades. So he did destroy parts of it. So it's one of those movies or TV shows where the villain actually wins. Oliver feels guilty, so Felicity and John they go on a plane. They go to Oliver, the city needs you. The crime is still bad. They need the hood. And Oliver's like, I just can't do it. Oliver does come back home and see how it is. He does refuse at first, but able to talk him into coming back. Yeah. Oh yeah, they parachute down there from the plane and Felicity. I don't blame her for being scared. I'd be scared to do parachuting too from a plane. They do pass by the boat along with the Deathstroke mask that was destroyed from the first season. Felicity accidentally steps on the medline. I mean landmine. Oh yeah, well first when they go to look for him, I forgot before they see him. Felicity, steps on a landmine, but Oliver jumps in over like fucking Tarzan. He doesn't do but he I was like, oh, and he saves her. He tells them just to go home, but again, he like I said, Oliver's feeling guilty, especially losing his best friend. Oliver does return to the city. We see Thea, the queen. She is now owning all of her, his nightclub. She is now the owner of it. Rory, her boyfriend Rory from the first season, of course they're in a relationship now. They both own it. He works for her. And Myra from the Myra Queen, played by the same actress in this season, she's in jail now. She's in prison. Oliver says, "How you doing, sis? I'm sorry. I just forget what happened to Tommy." Doesn't tell you he's the arrow, of course. I don't think she finds that out till season 3 or 4. But Oliver tells her, "You need to go see mom." He's like, "I don't want to see that woman. She murdered 503 people." And I can understand her mom kept some secrets from her and eventually damaged their relationship. It is sad to see that. Oliver does go see her eventually, and she's going to go to trial. And if convicted, she might get the death penalty. So Myra's in prison because she took part in the undertaking, part of the Tempest organization led by Malcolm Merlin. Yeah. And while the Hood's been gone, Oliver's been gone. Roy goes out there to fight crime. He does get in trouble sometimes, of course. Then you have the mayor of the city, talking about vigilantes, which Laura Lance arrives and now working with the DA. Laura's pissed in this season. You know, she's angry. She supported the Hood when he stood for, but now she accuses him for not saving Tommy. She goes through a lot of issues in this season, especially becoming an alcoholic, but we don't get there yet. She works with this DA. She's going to be the prosecutor, you find out a little later in the season. And she hates the Arrow, the Hood, and blames him for the death of her friend Tommy. She doesn't know that. It's Oliver, of course. Yeah. But they're hanging out. It's like at a party. Laura's, of course, looking more beautiful in this season. But she's hanging out with the district attorney, which is his name. Let's see. Well, the DA, whatever. They get these bad guys break in. I do like it that when she punched one guy. Again, Laura, we do see her, a little bit of fisticuffs sometimes. She could be a badass in her own way. Quentin arrives and reveal that he's been demoted. because of him talking to the Arrow. I mean, I'm sorry, the Hood. He's not fired, but his chief's like, "Your was a pop. You can't be here. You're not a detective. As a father, you're allowed to be here though." Because his captain didn't fire him, just demoted him just to be a police officer, just wearing a badge, not being a detective no more. So he spends that season doing this. Oh yeah, you have these people. They're in the Hood. They're shooting and attacking people, and you find these guys. They're mad. They're pissed. What happened in the Glades? So they're going to threaten some people. Oliver and Laura talk about what happened. They did sleep together before the undertaking. She says she regrets it, that she cheated on Tommy, even though they kind of, I think, broke up in the first season. Oliver gets mad because he's realizing that Diggle tricked him to come save his family. Apparently, you know, they meet with Isabel Roche. She wants to buy the company out, and she just sees him as a lazy billionaire playboy. Oliver doesn't want nothing to do with his company. He doesn't care. But she says, you need to defend his company since Myra's in prison. Queen Consolidated is going to be taken over, or bankrupt, buyout, whatever you want to call it. So they need Oliver to be CEO. So he's still in the front news, of course, and people are like, Oliver Queen's back. She's got 45 shares of the company that she can put 40 shares, but at least 10% will be available to be bought at Queen Consolidated. He mentions that he can buy it before her. She points out his trust fund is no larger enough to buy it. Nobody will assist him, though. Then the Hoods attack. All was able to get Isabel. They attack. He's able to help her to get to safety. I do like the moment where Oliver grabs a chain, him and Phyllis like shoot out the window, like a Mission Impossible type thing. That was pretty cool. Oliver doesn't want to be the Hood no more because of what happened to Tommy, feeling guilty. And she's like, "Well, you need to be the Hood again. We need the Hood." He responds about revealing secret to the Hoods and Isabel. But he catches him out. He's like, "I can't do this again. I was a killer. I did some terrible thing." You know what Tommy said to me? Tommy said I was a killer, murderer, and he was right. And I can't do that ever again. So Oliver visits his mother. She jokes about, how the Clintons were taken over. But she did save hundreds of lives, but she also points out that hundreds more died. He tells his mom, I don't know how to save the company, but she encourages Oliver that you can do this. Later on, Verdant, the nightclub is attacked by the Hoods looking for Oliver. Roy attacks one of them and finds out one of the Hoods has an anticipated hand. But Thea gets kidnapped. They kidnap Thea. And this promotes Oliver, of course, to put the suit back on. He puts the makeup on, his suit back on. He's like, leave her alone. They're going to shoot her in the head. But Oliver jumps in and fights some of the guys off. And the main bad guy, Oliver's able to shoot like an arrow at him, knocks him out. You know, Thea then visits Myra, saying that she hated her for what she did. They both cry and give each other a hug, that she forgives her mom for what she did. Isabel reveals that she's bought 5% of the 10% stock. That her and Oliver, they can be partners in business. They can run the business together with help from Walter Steele, who is now the owner of a major bank in Sterling City. Walter is his stepdad, well, his mom's ex-husband, because they divorced in the first movie. But he helps Oliver out, which was cool. I'm surprised if he didn't get a call from Myra from prison to help him out. Or, he was just generous enough to help him out. Because they were his family too, for a while, for those 5 years. Roy tries to stop this woman from getting attacked. Then this woman in this black mask, black, kind of black costume, black mask, the Canary, as we find out later, she attacks and saves him. And at the end of the episode, after seeing Thea, Oliver decides he can go back in the suit, but he's like, I can't kill no more, no more killing. He has to become something else. Like, there, know that he can, maybe bring some hope to the city. And no more killing. But City Heroes, that was a good episode. Okay. I gotta mark it down. Sorry, hit myself with paper. Next one is my favorite episode of season 2 is called Identity. And again, I will make a part 2 of this video if I have to. Yes, 15 minutes in, we're in that. Okay, I'm looking at the time, folks. In the beginning of the episode, Roy attempts to foil this robbery by chasing it in his car. Apparently, he gets into a wreck and gets arrested for it. Yeah, he crashes. He gets interrogated by Laura, who says, you shouldn't trust the hood. He's a bad guy. He got my breath. By the way, the reason I haven't been doing videos like that, I was sick for a little bit. Yeah, this change of weather, it messed with my sinuses, messed with my throat. But I feel actually good and better and motivated to do a video today. So I'm doing this. But she tells him, you don't need to do this. He's like, well, somebody had to do this. They try explaining that the hood did this. And he's like, the hood's inspirational. He saved my life. He's not a killer. No. He's killed some bad guys who maybe deserve it. That's what not Oliver, Roy thinks. But thinks that the hood actually did some good city, but Laura disagrees and tells him, you're going to end up like him. Eventually he's going to go to jail. See where to stop. But she does announce to Thea that the charges have been dropped. You find out the Glades have that medicine has been stolen. Oliver's trying to tell, Roy to stop, but Roy, of course, doesn't listen. He just thinks of him as a billionaire playboy. He's like, I ain't gonna listen to you. He doesn't know he's the hood. Oliver then, finds China White. She's the one that stole the medicine delivery trucks. And you find out Michael J. White, you find that there's this character named Bronze Tiger comes into play. And first Oliver does get his ass kicked by him. He's able to attack Oliver. So he's got like kind of Wolverine kind of knives. Being Bronze Tiger, he's like a tiger. Oliver tries to now the arrow tries to shoot the shoot his arrows at him, but he's like, come on, you wasting arrows, and gives him a bit of an ass whooping. And of course they get away with medicine. And him and John White get away. Oliver then calls Sebastian Blood, who's at first against him, doesn't like Oliver at all. He's like, the people in need, he's like, Oliver, you don't care. And Oliver goes, and people are like, Oliver, you stink. Your family sucks. The Glades died because of you. And because of what Myra did, the Queens get a lot of hate, especially Oliver when he comes back home. People are being violent and attacking. Even, when him and Dave are driving off, somebody breaks the window violently or spits on it. Yeah. Oliver gets forced to abandon his appearance at the charity event, though. Stop trying to write from stealing supplies from the hospital. Yeah. Sebastian slanders him, saying that Oliver doesn't care about his city. He does. He just doesn't know his identity. Yeah. And he's somebody new in town as well. That wants to fight for the city of Starling City. You find out he wants to be the mayor. As the Hood, or the Arrow, I'm saying. He takes on China White and Bronze Tiger again. He does help the police arrest China White. He convinces Roy to stop fighting in the name, but become his eyes and ears and his legs. Laura sets a trap for the Hood, who's then surrounded by Bronze Tiger. He fights him again, and Oliver's able to, knock his ass out this time. China White, her hands get trapped, and she gets arrested this time. Um, he tries to tell, like I said, Laura's pissed. So, yeah. He's like, I don't trust you. And he's like, I knew you would come. She pushes this button, and the SWAT team shows up. And Oliver, you know, Arrow gets his arrows out. Then you have a flashback with Oliver, Slade, and Shadow. They discover a cave containing the remains of World War II Japanese soldiers. a skeleton is shown right who's them. So we see them. It's take after they stopped Arrow Friars, after Oliver, the arrowing him. They're still on the island and they're trying to find a way to escape. And then the episode ends there. So that was Identity. All right, my next favorite episode is called. Uh, oh, you piece of crap! No, no, no. Season 2. It's called Broken Dolls. Sorry. The episode ends where this episode left off. Broken Dolls does, where Oliver, everyone's got his hoods, got his arrows. The hood is getting ready to fight. You know, but then this woman shows up, the same woman, the Canary, who saved, who helped Roy, saves Oliver. You know, then she disappears. He wants Roy to track her down, which he managed to do through the vigilance connection to a girl named Sin. Then Quentin discovers that the serial killer Barton Mathis, it was a guy he arrested years earlier. That he's escaped from prison during the earthquake. You find out when the undertaking happened that the Count, who we see a little later this season, the Count, gives him the keys, and he was a serial killer. The Broken Doll. Now, this guy, the Broken Doll killer, whatever the frick you want to call him, Barton Matthias Mathis. Well, he likes to kill women, young girls, and he puts this kind of tube in their mouth, kind of like this deadly milk serum or whatever, and has them stand like a doll. Yeah, it's pretty freaked up. Yeah, this guy's really a psychopath. Lance then looks to Oliver's old ego vigilante for help. He's like, I know we don't work together, but I like that they start working together. You know, that a year later they start working together. Then they go to this man who they need a question about this investigation about who knows Matthias, and he's not telling the full truth. So, Arrow, Oliver shoots him with an arrow in the foot, and in the leg. He's like, I thought you didn't kill people no more. What are you doing? This against the law. Like, it's just an easier way to do it. And he tells them about the guy what they need to know. But again, I like seeing Quentin, Lance, and the Arrow working together. Him and Oliver working together. Yeah. Felicity then goes undercover, just pretending, and you feel scared for her. I do like Felicity in these first 2 seasons, and at least she has the guts to do this. I mean, Matthias almost catches her, yeah, but Quentin did going over. They keep an eye on Felicity. And he does know that Quentin does know from last year. He does know that she works with the Arrow. Yeah, and I do like it when Quentin talks to him on the radio. Kind of on the headset, saying, "Wow, you must have had a disturbing past for you to become, who you are." And of course, Oliver has the voice changer, the kind of the Batman voice. Yeah. Quentin tries to go chase the guy down. Tries to go chase Matthias down, but gets arrested by the cops, by his imperial, officer. I mean, by the captain, who demoted him to just being a police officer, not a detective anymore. But thanks to Laura, who's still mad at her dad for working with Arrow. I was like, Laura, you're acting like me. You hated him like I hated him last year. Where learns that the female is friends with Sydney, or they call her Sin. Yeah. She runs off and Roy follows her in an old building. Yeah, it's like a kind of like a clock tower. Save the clock tower. Sorry, it is a clock tower, and he gets knocked out by like a baton, like a white baton. Gets hit. Matthias ends up kidnapping Quentin and Laurel. The news then announces that Matthias adopted them, And of course, Rory's woken up. He's brought face to face with a female vigilante. She whacks him in the face for answers, but he's confused. When his phone went off for the text, she picked up the phone and read the message. It's from Thea. The lower was kidnapped. Then she leaves. She's like, get him out of here, you know. Then Barton begins to turn Laura into a doll, and this is disturbing to watch, you know. Even looking at a picture of it, it's just freaking disturbing as well. But eventually, the Arrow shows up, saves her. Yeah. But, well, the female vigilante shows up. I'm sorry. Uh, I think Barton dies. Let's see. Sorry, it's kind of been a while since I finished the season. Well, he drops a pipe over her. Yeah. And the female vigilante, this canary, for kidnapping Laurel, he kills her. Sorry. Yeah. So the canary. Sorry, but the canary kills her. I mean, kills the doll maker. Yeah, doll maker. That's a good name. And with the ice ends up dead. Then afterwards, Laura says, "I blame the Arrow Hood, but it wasn't him. It was my fault." And she's like, "Oh, my dad, I killed Tommy. He came and saved me." He's like, "No, honey, it's not your fault, honey." And this really makes her feel so much guilty over the season. She starts taking certain pills, and Mara gets ready for her pre-trial with the assistant attorney, who's a friend of hers. They want to seek the death penalty for Mara's actions and death of the citizens of Glades. Yeah. Later, though, the female vigilante is tracked down by an agent of Ra's al Ghul. Not Ra's al Ghul. I don't know why they call that. I hated that in Batman Begins. I hate it in this show. It's one thing I hate when they call, him Ra's al Ghul. It's Ra's al Ghul. Because again, this canary, she works with League of Assassins, but she kills him to avoid having to return. Then we get flashbacks on the island. Oliver and Slade rush to the aid of Shadow, who's being attacked. On the way to rescue, though, Oliver gets hit by the bombs, knocked out. Slade gets hit real bad. Yeah, throughout the flashbacks, though, well, you do find out that Oliver and Shadow, she's teaching him really good how to shoot the arrows. Eventually, the two start making out. They love. And the moments where Slade's like looking at them, maybe say jealousy, as you say, he has, feelings for her, but never really tells her. But they go somewhere else, and this is Shadow will be okay. Shadow gets captured. Then, they try to go save her. They get blown up. This is 5 years to the island. Well, probably 4 years now. But anyway, because it's like second year on that Oliver for on this island. But they blow up. You know, Slade's face gets damaged. Oliver ends up on this ship. He then wakes up to learn that he's imprisoned by unknown assailants on this boat, Amazon. They put Oliver in jail, and then the episode ends there. So that was Broken Dolls. Say we're in 28 minutes in. That's fine. I'm just looking at the time. Then my next favorite episode is called season 2 is called Cripple. Crupple. Can't say it right, sorry. Crupple. Oh gosh. Wait a minute. Okay, let's make sure. Sorry, but the phone helps me do the videos. Starts off with Oliver being late to an investor party at his house because he's chasing after this gang. You know, Felicity's like, well, Oliver's busy right now. We see him some action as the air, which is pretty cool. He shows up. She's like, you're late, Mr. Queen. You need to be here for your business. Again, she thinks of him as a lazy billionaire playboy. Just that he's lazy. That doesn't seem to care. But Oliver can't tell her he really is, of course. You know. He then shows up at the party, and this episode Isabel. Him and Felicity, they talk about there's these weapons, all these guns in the glades. A lot of innocent people get killed. We found out this guy who sells it. They call him the mayor. You know, he receives yeah, and the mayor is this. black gangster. I forget his name, but he's a gangster. And one of his own men betray him. And this guy's like, "You're not gonna shoot me in the mayor. You just go." He considers like a mayor, assistant the king. I thought he was a pretty good villain, but he kills one of his own men for doing something stupid, especially getting the hood or the arrow on his case. But Felicity and Oliver, they're able to determine from these past encounters that this female vigilante, the Canary, I'm just calling that, I don't care, that every time that when Oliver, she saves Oliver from Laurel, then she saves Laurel from the broken doll maker after killing Matthias. Every time Laurel was there, so they're like, and then that's when Oliver's will put two and two together. He finds out that Sarah Lance didn't die, that Sarah did die, that Sarah didn't die. And also you find out in the season Sarah's on the ship as well, the Amazon. But I'll get more on that later. I'm sorry. Getting way ahead of myself. I'm sorry. Oliver, sets this trap for the canary. She's like, "Well, hey, I know it's you, Ollie." And he's like, "Sarah, it's a mask, but it's also a wig in her hair." She's like, "I'm sorry, Ollie, I didn't tell you I was alive." She was believed to have drowned. Sarah feels insane about her family and Sterling, and she worries that Oliver would tell that she's alive. And Oliver's like, "I won't tell. I'm not going to do that." And she was saying, "Why don't you just see your family? Why don't you just see them?" They're like, "No." Because of the whole thing, I believe it's actually she wants to protect her family. She wants to get close to her family, Laura, and her mother, Diana, and her sister Laura, but she doesn't want to tell them because out of protection. Because the League of Assassins come here, she goes close to her family. The League might threaten them, kill them. Diggle was able to find out some information. I think it's about Lawton. I'm trying to get some information. There's a bit of flirting between them. You find out. I didn't know this at first, but they're but Delilah is his ex-wife. They used to be married. You find out in the season they met in the military, and she saved John's life. Or she calls him Johnny, and there's a flirtation between them. There's that spark between them again. They start in the season. They start falling in love with each other. They do get married again. At least they do have kids later on in the season. Oliver is able to get help from Sebastian Blood. Tell about him. They want to stop the guns. Brings to his office. Like, okay, Oliver, I trust you like a friend. Thea ends up meeting Cindy, who interrupts them. She's like, "You with a rich girl?" Yeah, a rich girl can hear you. Oliver talks with the Blood about the cross from the drive. Then they get assaulted by the mayor, who shows up and starts shooting at people. And even I think ooh, Thea gets shot. Or no, it wasn't Thea. I think it was Cindy. Yeah, Sin. Sin gets shot, but ends up in the hospital. But she ends up okay later. They identify the mayor, who he is. They track him down. Oliver recruits Sarah, who's watching from the outside, where Sam was taken down. You find out Laura develops a drinking problem. She refuses help from her father. She, goes over the ball. She's been drinking quite a bit because of the stress of, she feels so guilty of letting Tommy die, that she failed Tommy, and she feels guilty that she let her boyfriend die, and he died because of her, even though it wasn't really because of her. It was only because of his own father, you know, after his planned attack. His so just recalls revenge, but she gets almost a DUI, and he's like, "What are you doing, Laura? What the heck? You out of your mind? What the hell are you doing?" She doesn't listen to him. She just refuses to listen. Oliver even tries to talk to her, and she's like, "No, I don't want to hear it." Well, even Quentin, who had a drinking problem last year, he's going to AA meetings. He's getting help. But Laura, she begins also not just drinking, but taking pills as well. And then you have this man in a skull mask, kind of like a skull mask, kind of like Scarecrow from Batman Begins, but a little more scarier. and he injects him with this green substance that is called the Mirakuru, and he takes his mask off, and it's Sebastian Blood, who was this man in the skull mask. Then you have flashbacks. Oliver gets questioned about his friends on the island from a man named Ivo. When you find out about Felicity's past, Sarah, well, apparently she was shipwrecked. She, gets on the ship, thinks that they're gonna rape her or whatever, but Ivo helps her, and her and Ivo become like friends over the years, even though she's maybe like tortured, or maybe tortured, arrested, who knows what. Oliver sees her in the flashback. She beating up. They're trying to find, are your friends alive? Ivo questions him on that. He refuses to answer, so he gets shot. And Slade, you know, she, Shadow's able to make this special kind of medicine for him that her father taught her. And, he's like in pain. Slade's like nearly dying, but it helps him. Yeah. And he does learn Sarah's still alive when Sarah begins to torture him at the end of the episode, and that's Cripple. Yeah. So, all right, the next favorite episode of season two, where? So that is. Nope, 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 not that. That is. Another bitch. No, damn it. That is League of Assassins. Yeah, that is. Next favorite episode is League of Assassins. All right, 137. No, doing good so far. League of Assassins. All right. This opens up with Oliver, and he invites her to the Queen Mansion. Well, he tries talking to her again about her telling her family she's alive. But she's like, no, Oliver, they'll be put in danger. Yeah. Then the next morning, as they go to visit his mom in prison, they meet the prosecutor and his partner, that is Laura Lance, who's going to try to give his mom the death penalty. But she can't talk to Oliver about it. She, like, ignores Oliver because she can't talk about the case and how personal it is. But Oliver does understand she's doing her job. It does upset him, though. Sarah's at the mansion because Oliver invited her there. She looks at some old photos, even one of the pictures of the Queen Gambit that she was on that, crash that day, that evening. You know, she does worry about what she did and deserves forgiveness for it. Then Sarah and Oliver, they get attacked at the Queen Mansion. The Leave Assassins like Tony come back. They attack Oliver and her, fight them. And of course, this pisses Oliver's like, we're going to get them. Oliver removes the man's mask. They thought it was Malcolm Merlin because it's the same mask. Apparently, Malcolm was working with League of Assassins as well, but we do get more into that into season three as well. Yeah. She reveals the man named Al. He's a member of the League of Assassins and was targeting her for abandoning the League. That tells her that Ray Shal Ghul, not Ross, not Ra's al Ghul, Ray Shal Ghul, wants her back, or your family's gonna end up dead if you don't. Sarah's like, the only way you can leave the League is through death. So Felicia manages to trace him down, and you know, Oliver and Felicity, Sarah, they put their suits on. They fight with the men and some of the League of Assassins. There's a showdown with them. Of the two League members, they manage to escape, but he threatens to kill Sarah's family. So Oliver is able to protect Laura, but Quentin refuses to help to heed Felicity's warning. Won't listen. So after this, Laura tries to kiss Oliver, but he stops her. Yeah, you know, I do wish there was something more romantic between them, but of course, Oliver, you find out doesn't have those feelings for her anymore. Sees that someone tried breaking her, they put like a knife in her place. He's like, "There's nothing wrong, Laura. Everything's okay." But since Lance won't put to that warning, because Lance is like, "Look, Felicity, I'm a cop. I have people who want to kill me every day. I'm used to it. No biggie. I'll be fine." Then Laura takes these pills again and drinking as well. Sarah goes to see Quentin. Quentin's like, hey, honey, baby, you still alive? Oh, my daughter. And he gives her a hug and they have a crying moment. And she talks about what she's been through. They just talk. And it's just a sad moment to see them hug each other. They're in a diner talking. You know, you can say Sarah has a bit of PTSD from the experience of being on an island. She thinks that she hears a noise. She thinks she's being attacked. She's like, got like a knife going to attack somebody. I was like, calm down, honey. And she tells him where she's been at. You know, he then figures out she is the vigilante woman and knows who the hood is. Sarah then in bed comes to her, brings him to the clock tower. Then, of course, the League throws a second attack as Oliver, of course, in his arrow suit. They fight with him again. I do like there's a badass moment with Quentin where he shoots one of the League members, kills him. He's like, I do have some bullets. Powers the guy. I thought that, pops the guy with the gun, what I mean by that, kills him. Thought that was cool. Sarah wants to leave Sterling City, entrusting her secret to Quentin. So Myra decides, so at the end of the episode, I think Myra decides to take the deal, decides to take the deal instead of fighting. And winning, Oliver asks her to stop hiding things from her. However, with the encouragement of her children, Myra decides to fight the death penalty charge, even over a plea deal agreement, which, the DA and her name, Laurel, is getting his partner, assistant, who she's been working for, got a new job doing this. And she's like, okay, we'll go to trial. But then you have flashbacks that they're being left adrift from the Queen's Gambit. Sarah survives. Oh, and I already mentioned that she did mention Anthony Ibo, who wants to help with experiments, and she considers him a good man at first, but is really more fooled by him. So anyway, that was League of Assassins, really good episode. And seeing Sarah's past and how she almost died on the Gambit and how she ended up on that. While Oliver was on the ship, Oliver was on the island for a year. She was on the Amazon ship by Darth Anthony Ivo, who you find out is a madman actually. The later in the season, he does come off as being somewhat of a nice guy, but later you realize he's not. And then my next favorite episode is keep your enemies closer. Uh, is keep your enemies closer. Okay. Opens up the Roy places his red arrow to call for Oliver. Oliver Arrow gave him like this red hood, this little red arrow to call him basically if he needed to tell him something or need him for information. Oliver's in a meeting with Isabel, but Felicity interrupts him to tell him that Roy's letting you trying to get your attention. Then the arrow shows up to an exchange of counterfeit plates. Tasking Roy to remain behind while he interrupts the meeting and fights through the thug. Roy gets himself arrested by tackling one of the criminals as the cops arrive. Diggle gets, abducted. It did see nice Oliver in action a bit. It was always good to see the arrow in action. Yeah. Then John awakens in Argus cell, being interrogated by Amanda Waller, tasking him retrieving his ex-partner Lila Michaels from Russia. He finds that she's captured in Russia. She's going on a mission, and they say that we need you to go to Russia. And Oliver says that it's a business deal, so Isabel comes too, and he can't really argue. She's a partner as well, so he has to play along with it. You know. Meanwhile, though, Quentin goes about processing Roy for his latest arrest. As Theo arrives, he wants to let Roy go for whatever like him, but you know, he's like, "Don't stop doing what you're doing." But of course, he doesn't want to. But not Felicity. Thea talks to him and the bar, saying, "You still have your job here. You need to not be going to fight crime no more, Roy. Uh, you're just getting yourself in deeper crap. You need to stop doing this while you need to, okay?" And he says he'll stop for now. I think. Oliver and Felicity they watch the latest Star Labs Pro protest. John returns and reveals his mission to Russia, and Oliver him enjoy. Then you have back in the past. I'll just mention the flashbacks. Sarah silently advises Oliver not to reveal his true identity. She's like, "I gotta trust him," Ivor relays that a World War II era Japanese carried super soldier serum, ran around on the island, tasking Oliver retrieving it. His friends have been killed. Meanwhile, in the present, Isabel arrives, landing in strip on the airstrip. This guy named Gene Loring drops to the club. Apparently, he's a Russian friend that was on the island. Oliver saved his life, and he taught Oliver how to speak Russian as well. That he's going to help them. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I mentioned the guy from Russia. Oh, yeah, sorry. No, Jean is this woman that advises Myra, I mean, not Myra, Thea to break up because of Roy's arrest, that the jury can use that against them. So they need to break up. And people in the office think that Oliver and Felicity, they're together, that he just wanted the weekend jet with her. It's like, well, that's what people say. Well, that's not true. Yeah. Oliver and John did meet with Oliver's old friend, Anatoly. Like I said, he was on the island with Oliver. So Lila found herself trapped in a Russian Gulag prison that they need to go save her. Anatoly provides John with a shipment of drugs to get himself caught by the Russian police, which works. They throw John in jail, and he's next to Floyd Lawton, aka Deadshot. He wants to attack him, but Deadshot, he was the one who killed his brother, Andy, because again, he was his target. You know. But John's not bent on revenge right now. He even lets Deadshot help him to save Lila, because that's what he cares about right now is saving Lila's life. Because he gets very much cares for her, loves her. You know. Yeah. Felicity doesn't agree with this at first, but John tells her and Oliver that him and that Lila is his ex-wife, that they used to be married a long time ago. They were actually married during one of their tours of duty. And then they, excuse me, when they didn't have combat and common assist their marriage. John then gets himself picked up on a nearby street corner, takes his Russian facility, and it totally has his contacts to obtain a transport. Oliver threatened one of the men in Russia to secure the deal. Back in the past, though, Sarah urges Oliver not to indicate that they know one another, but she has no choice but to help Ivo. Oliver does reveal that his friends are alive. You have, Shadow still healing a Slade in this drowned aircraft, offering her body warmth when he injures when Slade is injured, so she gives him some body warmth because he's getting close to death, but she's trying to save him. Thea breaks it. Back in the present, then you have Thea. She breaks it off with Roy. They need some space from living together. John also gets into a fight with one of the cellmates. That's when he meets Deadshot. Yeah. Oliver ends up finding he's about drinking alone. They bond over their knowledge. At first, they're not like each other, but then they start flirting with each other. And she's like, "Well, where's the check?" And then her and Oliver sleep together, and like, I don't blame Oliver. Isabel, they actually just later she's gorgeous, so I don't blame him for trying to tap that. No, just, but they do hook up. Yeah. Deadshot also offers to help him find Lila, and he does. Then Oliver Felicity lets Oliver know that Anatoly needs the help. You know that they need to go get John and Lila out the prison. Then back in the past, Sarah secretly brings Oliver to the radio room to contact Shadow. She serves the connection leads both Ivo and the ship's captain in the room. Oliver lied about his friend's survival. Deadshot finally leads John to Lila, leaving John to. He's like, honor John. John tries to teach him, you gotta have some honor, Deadshot. And Deadshot kind of learns to have honor. But John really frees Deadshot, who leaves with a relation supported by his that his brother Andy Diggle was killed by the this organization known as Hive. Oliver and Isabel they share this awkward goodbye. John thanks for Oliver for his help in Lila. He's like, thanks, I appreciate that. Then they arrive to Iron Heights prison to find her mother meeting with Roy, having heard Gene's actions and making a personal effort to get them back together. And I like that. Myra's like, no, don't break up. This has nothing to do with Roy. Roy's a good kid. He might have done some stuff. But I think Myra knows that Roy's good for her daughter. John begins researching Hive. Felicity asks Oliver why he hooked up with Isabel. Oliver says that he shouldn't get involved with anyone but he might actually care about. Then, finally, in the past, Sarah convinces Ivo to spare Oliver's life. Friday helps them to find the graves on the island. You're going back to the island, Oliver. And Ivo warns, and he does. So, that was a really great episode. Then, my next favorite episode is State versus Queen. So, we see Myra go on trial. When the earthquake in the Glades happened, you found out that the Count, who was the guy that had drug Vertigo, which, almost killed Thea, who got into a car crash in the first season, then the Count got released. Oliver came close to killing him, but didn't. You know, he got the keys out of his cells, even lets, the doll maker get out, who was dead by now. Then it hit 6 months later, Myers' trial begins. Oliver, noticing that Diggle was sent, he's like, Diggle, you're sick, you're not doing well. He sends him home. Myers' trial begins, and Diggle returns to Queens instead of going home, and then he passes out. Yeah. You find out it's to do with the drug Vertigo, that he gets this in his system. Yeah. You find out that the Count, he's expanding it, the Vertigo. He's working more on it, where people get know how to use it. They may not use it when they not know it. The Count, almost some guy tries to, tries to tell him, talks like this. You know, tries to get more money from him. He's like, never asked for too much money. And then shoots him with an arrow, with a drug, killing the guy. Felicity and Oliver then Diggle command that the Foundry and Felicity reveals that Diggle is trace amounts of Vertigo in his system. They do find that the Count also escaped with the Dollmaker. Oliver gives her the antidote dart and returns to court. Thea gets on trial. He questions her, about her mother and these certain things he talks about. Of course, being in trial, you have to tell the truth. Nothing but the truth when you're on the witness stand. You argue me charged with obstruction of justice. All of a sudden, Adam collapses. So Oliver turns to the Foundry to find that The end of dark has no effect. The Count changed the formula, and he wants to send it citywide. So the Count kidnaps the ADA. He kidnaps Adam. So of course he had to save him as the Arrow. He hijacks the van, pretending to be the medical, the limo, ambulance driver. The Count pretends to be one. They're suffering from the same one. Thea's upset about her mother and all this crap going on. He's like, "Come on, Thea, you're angry. You're just upset." He gives her some boxing gloves. He's like, "Punch." He's like, and she gets really mad, crying, and he's like, "It's okay, it's okay. You just wanted her to gotta let that anger and frustration out sometimes." Meanwhile, though, Laura begs Myra to take the stand. Like he damaged her relationship amongst the queens, doesn't want to have to use it. Myra tells Oliver and Thea the truth before court, even though Thea has previously asked the same question. Then Laura uses an affair Myra had with Malcolm Merlyn to prove that Myra was never in any danger of Merlyn, that he didn't kill Walter. They're trying to prove that, she was a mother, like a mother bear protecting her cubs. But the prosecution is making like she knew what she was doing was wrong, and that she supported Malcolm all the way, and that even worse, that she had an affair with him. But it was for 1 year. And spoiler alert, you also find out that Malcolm Merlyn is Thea's father. You know, Laura uses this, uses it, and he counts down in her defense. Felicity is able to locate the Count, and Oliver saves the district attorney. He's like, "Come on, Arrow." The Count says, "Come on, Hood. Kill me. Murder me like you were going to do last time." And he's tempted, but he doesn't. Felicity and Diggle work out through the victims having nothing in common. Diggle was out of commission. Oliver focused on Myra's trial. Felicity gets the van alone. But telling Oliver could be nothing. She finds this van. Eventually, the Count finds her. They wait for the verdict. Myra's case. The Count then calls Oliver, revealing that he's figured out by Felicity's working badge of his attempt to score Vertigo with the Count's previous encounter with the Hood. That Oliver Queen is, in fact, the Arrow. He leaves the courthouse, even though Thea's like screams like, "Oh, we need you here." He's like, "I gotta go." Yeah. Say Felicity. He didn't say that though. In front of the Count at the Queen Consolidated, he attempts to kill the Arrow, someone who she orders as well for revenge. Again, the Count wants revenge on him for putting that person. So he threatens to kill Felicity, but overdrug her. He comes close to do it with him. Even though Oliver has made that thing, I can't be killed anymore. But knowing that this overdose could kill Felicity, he has to save her life. So Count's about to do it. So I'm going to do it. He comes close to do it. So he puts an arrow in him, and he falls from 50 feet or 60 feet from the building, and Count falls to his death. Oliver's like, but he had no choice. Mm. So he has to break that vow. He returns to the courthouse. Thea and Oliver go back for the verdict, and then the lawyers warn them Myra is not found guilty. She gets set free. Myra's gonna go home. Yeah. Billy tries to apologize for Oliver having to kill, but he's like, "Well, I had no choice. Your life was in danger." But it's more than that. Like I said, you find out his feelings for her. Yeah. You find out that the man skull masked, who is, like I said, brother blood, they call him. I think, yeah, that is Sebastian, who was trying to run the mayor for the city. He's been this man skull mask, brother blood, who drugged the count, helped the count do all this. Then Myra finds out that after she's freed, that you find out that Malcolm is still alive. He's like, "You think it was a coincidence? No, I threatened some of those jurors. That's why you're set free." He's like, "No, give me my daughter back now." Then the flashback that you have Shadow and Slade rescue Oliver and Sarah. They go on the island. They get the arrows on him. Slade's got his sword on him. Shadow they come to the island to find a stone arrowhead left by the Japanese soldiers. Slade and Shadow have rescued Oliver, and Sarah's Shadow reveals that she has the airhead Ivo was looking for in the dead bodies. Sarah reveals whatever is on the sub will save the human race, and Oliver wonders if it will save an injured Slade. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the island, Ivo, due to the captain's failure to prevent Oliver's escape, says the captain, "You failed. You did a crappy job." And pow, he shoots him in the head. And says, "Congratulations to this other guy. You're the captain now." Promotes this other guy, revealing how cold-blooded Ivo really is. Ivo does not hesitate to shoot you. He might seem like a nice guy, but deep down he's a crazy madman who creates this drug, the Miratura, but he's insane and he's willing to shoot you, to get what he wants. Yeah. So, but anyway, that was a good episode. Okay, next favorite episode, State versus Queen. Now the next episode is this is where we're introduced to Barry Allen. This episode is called The Scientist. Oh, come on, bitch. Already 1 hour in thing. Come on. The Scientist. This episode is considered a backdoor pilot for The Flash. This is not a crossover, but this is Grant Gustin's first time as the character Barry Allen. But it's just a guest starring role. Like I said, it's an introduction to the character. Yeah. But I don't consider it a crossover. Barry's not even the Flash at this point. This is just getting to meet the character for the first time, meeting Barry Allen. But apparently, Arrow was so successful, I guess, because again, it got season 1, 2, and high ratings, so they decided to make another superhero show, their second show, that would be on The Flash, starring Grant Gustin. So this is a backdoor pilot for that. You have the opening of this masked thief. He has superhuman strength. He steals these Applied Sciences Division. He steals this device or whatever, and it's unusual because he's a very strong, super strength kind of man. Oliver and his team investigate. They get help from Central City CSI Barry Allen, who's not a cop, but CSI. He is a forensic scientist. Who's Barry Allen is. Barry, of course, is late, always late to places. We see Barry first. He's like, "Oh, I'm late, I'm late," and it's raining, and he gets a car, flashes water on him, sprayed on him by a car. I thought was funny, but I like how they brought him in. He's a fan of the vigilante as well, and he's got theories about him. He's like, you know, Barry's very talkative and very jokey, as a character should be. Again, he becomes a wimp later on in the seasons of The Flash, but when we first meet Barry, he's funny and hilarious. I feel a lot better Barry Allen though than Ezra Miller. If it was Ezra Miller, I would never bother to watch the damn show in the first place. He was the publicity that telling he's interested because his mother, yeah. But Oliver suspects something about Barry is hiding something, so they investigate him. They do think he's awkward at first, but he's not saying who says he's not here for any reason. He does tell Felicity about his mother being murdered, you know, but doesn't go into much detail. Barry reveals that he's searching for superpowered human beings with superpowers, and hope that he'll prove one case true. Tells them that when he was 11 years old or 8 years old, sorry, that his mom was murdered right in front of him. That she was murdered. He was in a flash outside, you know, a few lanes down in this neighborhood he lived in, and Barry's like, no, she was murdered. and his father got accused. His father, Henry Allen, got murdered, accusing his mother, who was Nora Allen. So Barry tries to always investigate this, trying to find out who murdered his mom. That's why he became CSI, to find out the truth. It's like a blur figure that did this. Was, of course, we find out in the Flash. If you've seen the Flash, that it was Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash, that killed his mom. But you could see the Flash for that. Sorry for the spoiler there. After a blood bank is robbed and Oliver fails to stop the thief, yeah, he uses the same then. Oh, he's used the same serum as Dr. Ivo. Oliver tries to fight this guy first, but tries to use some arrows in him, but it's like the arrows don't affect him, and he gives Oliver quite a beating, almost nearly kills him. He figures out this information. Diggle, who's previously suspected that he knew more than he was telling, that he destroyed the entire supply of the serum, and all survivors were killed. The serum needs a strong sedative as well, which leads Felicity, aided by Barry, to find the next place the rubber will hit. Felicity warns Oliver that he may not be able to fight the thief due to his strength. Roy and Thea then stumble upon Oliver's case for helping Sin to find her missing friend. You know, Roy and Thea decide to help Sin. Her friend's been missing. He was a test subject of Adrian's blood. They didn't survive to being ruled in by a blood drive, but Oliver brushes him off to stay away. Roy says he and his friends will investigate themselves. In order to prevent him and possibly Thea from getting involved and nearly getting killed, Oliver shoots an arrow in Roy's leg. Yeah, just as the arrow shoots him in the leg. Oliver tracks the thieves into an August bunker. He's of his brother who saved him with the serum. So Oliver fights him, losing his badly injured. He nearly gets killed. Oliver nearly gets killed. I mean, the man this time nearly kills Oliver. They send out call cops protecting his identity. So she's like, I know somebody who can help. So she calls the guy she calls Barry at the train station, who misses his train to Central City anyway. From the shadows, a dart is shot into Barry's neck, probably by Diggle, of course, and he's feeling unconscious. He wakes up in the Arizona hideout, sees Oliver who he is, and Oliver's just passed out about to die. They have to operate on him real quick. Barry helps him out. Myra returns to the public eye. It's not Welcome Society by Isabel, our Queen Consolidated. Malcolm has begun to put pressure on Myra to tell Mitzi that he's her father, even though he's threatening her, but she refuses him, that she's not afraid of him anymore. And she also tells him she's contacted Ra's al Ghul, who wants to kill Malcolm for breaking the League of Assassins code by destroying the glades. Myra then tells Malcolm to run as a result. Malcolm leaves and warns him that this is not over. Then this flashback, you see Sarah, Slade, and Shadow travel to the island. They use the only to stop the fusion on the island. They find the serum. They have the serum, but no sedative. Slade will die without it. Slade like, oh, Slade's been injured, nearly bombed to death. His face is torn up, scarred horribly. So they give him the sedative. They put the mercury in his body. Oliver like stabs it in there to him, gives him the shot. So, he apologized to Shadow for not telling her his feelings. But then Ivo arrives with his men. They capture them. The episode ends there. Yeah. And Barry does come back in the next episode that is called Three Ghosts. There's another favorite episode, Three Ghosts. All right, we're running out of minutes. Okay. Takes over they're taking care of Oliver after he was nearly killed by Cyrus Gold, who had that super strength, the serum given by Brother Blood, who again is Sebastian Blood. But anyway, we don't he didn't know that yet. Nearly is killed. Oliver wakes up and is pissed. He's like, Felicity, my secret is not for you to give out. That's not right for you to give out. And Barry even says to him, you don't need to be a jerk about it. And he's like, sir, you need to be calm about it. She was just trying to save your life. Look, I won't tell anybody. And I like how Barry looks at the head stuff and like, wow, this is real cool. These arrows are awesome. Ooh, that hurt. I thought that was funny. But he does storm out of leaving Diggle and leaves them hurt as well. Then back at the Queen's house, Theo reveals that Roy did not go to the hospital and needs aid. Oliver then removes the arrow and calls for John to come over with a first aid kit. Oliver starts to hallucinate in this episode, back with Slade dying. Oliver and Sarah being held at gunpoint, leave the outside. Now everyone makes Oliver choose with 30 seconds. He's like, okay, Oliver, you're going to choose either Shadow or Sarah. Shadow or Sarah. He's like, no, kill me, you crazy son of a bitch. Kill me. And he shoots Shadow in the head. And Shadow dies, of course. Oliver goes back into the hideout. He even sees visions, after helping Roy get the arrow out of him, calling David to come out and help him out. He sees visions of Shadows like, hey, Oliver. It's just three ghosts are saying, you know, Barry agrees to run some tests, try to identify what, Oliver Tiger did to him and why he's hallucinating. With it unknown about the side effects, Diggle goes in the hideout with Oliver as backup. He's caught and injured in the apartment. Oliver then picks him up so they can speed away. He hallucinates Slade, like he's gonna shoot arrows or something. He's like, "Feel what you did to me, kid." Yeah. And him and they both have a fight. Fights the hallucinations. They would beat him though. Quentin gets his squad together, but one of the men involved is one of Blood's followers. One of these police officers. Oliver remembers dashing in front of Sarah, lures out with Sebastian Blood. He learns of her father's injuries. Oliver then visits Quentin, gave Oliver a gold key that he got off the guy. They discover the truth about Tim's friends Max. They were based on opposite some files on the word Miraculo. A man starts pouring gasoline, and Roy makes a break for it, but he's caught by Gordo by Simon's Gold, gets knocked out by him, I think. Palm around the Gold's arm. Roy's knocked out. Yeah, he's knocked out. Okay. They get defeated by Cyrus. Oliver has another hallucination. This time, though, it's Tommy. And Tommy's like, Oliver, look, you are a hero, man. I was wrong. You're not a murderer killer. Good man. Do the right thing. Be the hero. Be the man that this city needs you to be. And this encourages Oliver to deal with defeat Cyrus Cold. Able to knock him out. Eventually has to kill him. No choice because this man is dangerous. Brother Blood's able to run away, though. Escape. Oliver goes to Larry and relates his worries to Felicity. The serum may not affect him negatively. Roy wakes up in Thea's room. That's then worried about him where he went. It is revealed that the mastermind is Slade Wilson. That Slade is still alive. You see Slade have the eye patch, probably from the comics. That the new Miraculo can be made with the blood, and he will corrupt or kill the Hood's followers. He's like, I will get revenge on all the Queen. We just hear his voice and stuff that we find out Slade's still alive. And he orders Blood to leave the vigilante alone because he has certain plans for him, plans for the city, for Starling City, and to get revenge on Oliver. Ivo flees when Slade turns up with superhuman strength. He kills some of his men. They find Shadow dead. He's upset, and then he vows revenge. And they don't say anything about Oliver doing anything about all this. That Ivo just shot her, and he vows revenge. Then back later, Oliver tells him that what happened. That Barry's going to regress in the way that he treated him before. Then Barry leaves a green devil in a mess. This is when Oliver gets the mask in the season, thanks to Barry. During a lightning storm, though, this protocol sort of takes off. You see Barry go back to Central City, go back to the CCPD, Central City, the police department, go back to his not lair, but his office or his forensics lab. Goes back to the lab. He's going to close the gate not on the top ceiling. Sees the particle accelerator go off that Dr. Harrison Wells sets off. He gets shot by lightning, struck by lightning, not shot. He can't get shot by lightning, struck. And you see him powering up, and that's when we get to the TV show The Flash. But it is cool to see Oliver put on that mask for the first time, and he asks Felicity how to leave. She's like, "Looks like you look like a hero." But that was a real good episode of Oliver, learning from his past and stuff. But finding out Slade's alive, which we'll get more into that in this season. But that was Three Ghosts. And then another favorite of mine is called Blast Radius. Okay. Then Oliver continues his search for the man in the red skull. You see him chasing this guy down. Eventually, he's able to, get him out of his car, throw him up in the air, by like again, his arrows can be made out of anything. This one to like tie the guy up with rope and saying, "Where's the man in the red skull? Where's he at?" But it apparently doesn't work out. Then Oliver and Thea they host a campaign party for Sebastian, who is running for mayor. They learn that Laura has been seeing Sebastian, dating him, but Laura's kind of suspicious of him. There's something up with him. But meanwhile, this explosion happens part of the city. When Felicity, has been traveling to Seabury, who was in a coma after getting struck by lightning. Then the serial bomber named Mark Schaefer, or the Sharpener, they call him, begins setting off bombs in Sterling City. Oliver rushes off to help. Oliver saves some people. Like a hero, he does save some people. He saves a man and this woman from getting burned in a fire. Saves his family, and he was talking to Lance, and they took a question what they're going to do about this guy. How they're going to stop him. All of a sudden, this bomb goes off. That was a nice moment of him, of Lance and the Arrow talking. Felicity does return. She does talk to Detective Lance. Laura shows up at Sebastian's office, brings up to Sebastian about Cyrus Gold. Someone Sebastian knew, and he's able to make up some lies about it, what happened in the past. She does snoop in his office around a bit. Thea then questions Roy about him since the last 5 weeks he's been acting differently. Gives up and said he's the only one thing keeping them together. And knowing that she could be in danger, breaks up with her by kissing her in the storage room. She sees this, they break up. Quentin believes that there is a leak into the police department and asks Hood for help. This other blast recurs. Oliver went after the guy but loses him in the chase. He chases the guy and he's like, Felicity, can tell me that. He's like, he's here. He's like, no, you lost him. And Oliver's like, Felicity, I need you to get your head in the game. You're thinking so much of Barry Allen. Could you stop imagining him for a second and do the work I need you to? And this pisses Felicity off, which rightly so. But you say Oliver's probably jealous. And she's like, well, why don't you get your head out of your ass? And Oliver's like, excuse me? And John's like, oh, calm down, calm down. And again, there's moments where I don't like Felicity. Not in this season, but I like her person. I don't blame her for telling Oliver, stood up to Oliver and say, get your head out of your ass. Oliver was being a dick to her. Yeah, I know this show will go on to prove Oliver's always wrong, but he was wrong here, I'll admit. To get on her like that. But then you have Sebastian Black's campaign as mayor is continuing. He's going to have this rally, and the sharpener tries to kill him there, but Oliver's able to shoot like an arrow at him, take him down because he targets it. Thea witnesses Roy using new strength to save her mother. Well, apparently you find out that Roy was, gotta mention, I think it was in this episode or earlier, where he was kidnapped by Brother Blood and injected with a Mirakuru. Oliver does apologize to Felicity and says, I hope Barry's okay. I'm sorry for being a jerk. All's forgiven. Laura continues to look into Blood, though. Cyrus Blood was the man that was the guy in the black mask, nearly killed the Arrow and killed some people. Yeah. She also visits his mother in a mental institution. She realizes Sebastian and her father put in this institution covered up that Sebastian murdered his father, even though he told her about his past and that he lied. In a flashback, though, Slade experiences effects of the mind and personality of the Murakumo. He goes there, he's like, Shadow's just because of you. You worked with Iron. You know, you think he's some, you know. Oliver's like, back off, and then he shows Oliver's like, he tries to hit him with a tree limb, his tree stick, but it doesn't work. Sarah hits him with the tree branch, causes him to let go. Slade begins to freak out because of it, and he's like, it's okay, Slade. He's like, because this Mercury is affecting his mind and his personality. Ivo asks for the drug in return for getting him off the island. The drug they have. And yeah, good episode. That was Blast Radius. Alright, then my next favorite episode of Arrow Season 2 is called. Wait a minute, make sure it's called this one. Blind Spot. Okay. We're 1 hour 20 minutes. If we get to 2 hours, folks, sometime I'll stop the. Yeah, go for part 2, okay? Sebastian does visit his mother in the institution. Has a conversation with her, but learns that Laura came to visit her. But, he's like, he forgives his mom. And his mom thinks he's crazy. And since she betrayed him like that, he's about to lay down. But then he visits her again. But this time, as Brother Blood with his skull mask on. Sorry. Skull mask on. And kills his own mother. There, you have Arrow interrogate him and ask him if he knows who the man with the skull mask is. Interrogates this guy, scares him, but it's no avail of it. She's able to do like a polygraph test on this guy, and he's telling the truth. He knows nothing about Brother Blood. Laura is at her desk about to swallow some pills. He gets interrupted by someone telling her that the call waiting for her from the mental institution. Laura learns that of Sebastian's mother's death. There's more to that. Blood is not all what he seems, so that he might have killed her. Laura boss Adam Donner dismisses her as like he's running for mayor. He's a good guy. Leave him alone. You have no proof of anything. Tells her to back off. Oliver approaches Roy, asks about what happened at the rally. Roy claims that he's okay before walking away. Laura wants to talk to There and Laura, they share a tense meeting on the rooftop. I had to be suspicious that some SWAT team's coming to me. He's like, I'm sorry I did that. Yeah. But she wants him to investigate Sebastian, but he doesn't believe her. He's reluctant to do it because, as Oliver, he does support Sebastian, thinks he's a good guy. Oliver, Felicity, and Diggle at the Queen Consolidated, they discuss Laura's claims that Sebastian's not really what he seems. They wonder if she's just setting another trap for him. They're on file, they get on file about Sebastian. Laura meets the Arrow at her apartment. He asks her to come with her to the archives. They break into the archives. Laura is shocked to see Sebastian's file has been cleaned. Laura meets the Arrow at her apartment when asks her to come with the sea archives. Then Sebastian is able to. I guess Sebastian figures out what she's up to. Then gets accused of her drug substance, and she gets arrested. Laura displays principle in her father. It's not bad as it seems. Being set up by Sebastian, including stealing some pills. Quentin does not believe her and tells her she has an addiction, causing her to break down. Oliver then comes to bail her out. Roy has become very distant lately because of his powers. He has to tell someone, so he tells and shows Sin, and she's like, "Wow, that's so cool." And they said that maybe some bad guys. He's like, "Well, we don't need the arrow no more. I can just, I got the super strength now." Sin dresses as a prostitute as bait for a starring slasher. Serial killer who murders prostitutes. Roy rips the car door open and starts beating the crap out of the guy and nearly killing him. Sin's able to realize she can't stop Roy. Roy, she tries to stop Roy, Roy's like, beat the crap out of him and then he pushes Sin. And Sin knows he didn't mean to. He takes the guy to the hospital. Freaks out Theo once she shows up. Roy begins to carry one, cry once out of sight of Cynthia and Sin. Oliver and Laura return to her apartment to clean up. Oliver is knocked out by the man in the skull mask. Laura is kidnapped. Oliver wakes up and learns that Laura was taken to Sterling Canary due to the on her apartment's walls. Laura wakes up in Canary, Sterling Canary. She is taunted by a man in the skull mask as he begins choking her. And they shoot the man in the skull mask. But it's not Sebastian they kill. It's the cop that was helping him out. Yeah. It was a guy named Officer Daly. Laura is taken to the police station where her father informs her that Daly was behind everything. Laura gets cleared of all charges, but after her substance abuse, Adam fires her. Oliver tells Felicity and Diggle that he will not be inclined to believe Laura in the future because, in his eyes, she was wrong about his friend. Arrow does pay him a visit. I mean, Oliver, in his error, as the Arrow, pays him a visit, said, "We can save the city together," and he's like, "I can trust you," and they shake hands. Oliver does confront Roy of his actions. Sebastian launches Slade's office to gloat that Laura was taken care of. Slade is nowhere to be found, only his voice can be heard. And Slade, in his Deathstroke suit, which is really cool by the way, kills the men. He's like, "You're not disobeying me again, I'll kill you, you understand?" He's like, "You will kill me, fool." And he's like, "Okay, Slade, I won't fight you again." Scared of Slade, of course, because Slade can kill him at any moment. But, good episode. Blind spot. Make sure this is the next episode. Okay, next favorite episode is called Tremors. Okay, we're on 1 hour 27 minutes. Okay. You have this man named Ben Turner who escapes from a assistant from prison, was assisted by a guy named Milo. Pays him $10 million to steal his prototype from Michael Moore's earthquake device. Which you have, Ben Turner, yeah, you have, Michael J. White comes back, which is cool. He kills the guard by stabbing him, steals the device. He doesn't care to give a crap who the device goes to. He's just doing it for the money. The Arrow tries to, teach Roy self control using the same technique that Shadow taught him, like tapping the water. He tells Roy, "You need to calm down. You got to control your power, your temper. You got to have it under control." And he has the Arrow. And at the Queen Mansion, though, Thea learns her mother is going out to dinner with Walter, and she sees Walter give each other hugs. And he's like, well, that they're not alone. By a guy named Mark Francis. Francis explains that they believe that Sebastian is going to destroy the banks and stuff, so they want Myra to run for mayor. Quentin visits Laurel, who insists that she's fine. He's like, well, let's have dinner, honey, and she agrees to it. Oliver is working out in the Arrow Cave. Lucy reveals that Bronstein has broken out. Yeah, he still does the working out, the shooting arrows in the cave, and the whole thing with jumping in that area. Just to exercise. He's got to keep in shape. Oliver tries to get Roy to focus, and Roy's just going with him. Oliver is working out. Oh, sorry. Laura learns that her father wants to come up with him to the AA meeting and get upset. And Laura sees it. Laura just walks up like, no, Dad, you lied to me. Walks away. Oliver then invites Roy to come along with him. They head to Macamone's home. They know that Oliver knows his way around. He's like, well, you must have been here before. Turner spots the Arrow and his new sidekick. Oliver deals with Turner. Roy takes care of the driver, however, loses it. Turner manages to escape with the device. It's like, you shouldn't have done that. You should opportunity to prove your temper. Oliver tells Felicity back at the air cave, Diggle and Felicity, that he lost Slade and how he wanted to reach Roy. He wants to help Roy because he lost his good friend Slade. The man I knew who knew Slade Wilson, he lost his mind because of Maricool. So I want to help Roy, to get control of it. Yeah. But the arrow was able to track down the device. Thanks to Felicity. And, you know, Roy starts beating the crap out of Bronze Tiger, Michael J. White. He kills him. But it's like, he takes off his mask. Nobody's around. He's like, well, is it Oliver? Yeah. Helps him out. So Roy heads to the Vernon and tells Thea that she needs to leave town. Give me a reason. Roy then rushes off, leaving her confused. Laura heads to see Jonah. However, Jonah realizes that Laura's disbarred because of the substance abuse, so they can't fight it. So Laura leaves without a job. Myra and Walter meet again. Learn that Walter pulled to see if Myra could win the election. Thea walks in and learns that Walter is trying to convince his mother to run. Thea thinks it's crazy. Thea says this isn't crazy. They support it. Roy tells Oliver that he told Thea. Roy then gets upset and begins to fight. Roy then pushes Oliver and vows to stop Turner. Oliver meets up with Diggle and Felicity in the air cave, learns that Felicity is still checking for the fingerprint. Roy can still be saved. He's like, Thea calls Oliver, learning that Laura's getting drunk at the club, that she's joining the club. He's like, yeah, I'm partying like crazy girl. And they send her home. Yeah. Turner does receive the money from the man. And that's when, Oliver, he nearly kills him. But he does help out by punching the crate and they're able to destroy the device where it kills more people again. Roy thanks him for saving him. Oliver then heads back to the files. Myra agrees to run for mayor against Sebastian, despite wanting that his pensioner to not come out. Amanda Waller says to Turner to communicate his sentence in exchange for him joining a suicide squad. Oliver introduces Ray to Felicity and Diggle in the Arrow Cave. They said they welcome him to the team. Laura arrives home drunk and suddenly passes out. She sees Sarah, who she thinks she's just hallucinating. Oliver struggles with the guilt of letting Shadow die. He tries to stop Slade from spraying Ivo's firefighter with arrow fires. Oliver begins to, he talks Slade out of it, of killing the ship. Oliver mentions his son and claims Shadow loved him, but in a different way. Slade begins to shake off and is like, what's happening to me? Slade wonders Oliver, then mentions taking the fighter. We're going to take the ship instead of destroying it. You know, a lot of people can be in danger. We need to get on that ship and stop him. He's able to convince. So Slade disappears for a little while just to go do this, but him and Sarah are able to convince him not to do it, and the episode ends there. A good episode. Okay, 132. Just looking at the time. Alright, let's try this. Alright, then another favorite episode of mine is called Heir to the Demon. Okay. You have this episode begins with this woman in an airport who is Nasa Al Ghul. She is played by Katrina Law. And she smiles at this boy, smiles, and they find she's dangerous. Security tries to arrest her. She kills security just like that. Her goal is to bring Sarah home back to League of Assassins in this episode. Nessa simply complies with, but she does kill them. And quick consolidated, Myra and Oliver, Thea and Walter, they're being introduced to what is going to happen when she's starting her campaign against Sebastian Blood. Felicity approaches Walter, states that Tempest had made a withdrawal to stating Sterling National Bank. Walter says he will ask Myra about it. Thanks Felicity for bringing it to his attention. Mark Francis approaches Oliver, reveals that he will need to withdraw his support for Sebastian's campaign. Oliver arrives at a hospital room where Laurel, Quentin, and Diana are in. Laura reduces her father's belief that she overdosed, but that she merely fell unconscious. Nurse comes in, they need to check Laura's eye. She could be on something. When she hit her head when she passed out. Oliver departs. He kisses Laura on the cheek, glances at her damaged eye, seeing a yellowish reflection of her pupil eyeball. Yeah. Laura holds Quentin back, and confides him that she saw Sarah, though she was hallucinating. Though he's keeping her secret for Sarah. But then back in the aircraft, Oliver comes to see Sarah is doing pull-ups on the Slater. Kind of becomes a member of the team. Felicity mentions to Oliver that Sarah has been doing that for an hour. Oliver tells her that she saved Laura's life. Sarah wonders how he found her, to which Oliver says he would never lose her again. Sarah insists she has to leave. The League of Assassins will be coming after her again. Oliver points out that Sarah's family needs her, and so does he. They retrieve Laura's blood from the hospital. Quentin is setting a dinner while Sarah arrives. Sarah hugs him, and Quentin has to stay for a cup of tea. He points out Sarah just can't keep popping up every time when a murder happens, when the family members, when their family members are in trouble. Sarah simply hugs her father again and then walks out. Oliver watches in this alley Sarah leave. Surprised when Nissa appears from the roof. She thinks they're going to attack, but yeah, I didn't care for her and Sarah that they share a kiss. Apparently they have a relationship. Yeah. Oliver does love his bow and chalk. She wants to bring Sarah back to the League of Assassins, but the Arab won't hear of it. So Sarah takes Oliver aside and tells him to trust her. Felicity pays Myra to visit at the mansion to talk about Tempest. That she trusts the payment to Dr. Gill, who delivered Thea. And they figure that Malcolm is his father. Felicity urges Myra to tell her children about this. Myra instead manipulate Felicity into keeping quiet by using her feelings for Oliver. She's like, I know your feelings for my son. You're not going to tell him anything. You're going to keep your mouth shut. And pretty much Felicity has never liked Myra. Thinks that Myra is probably a cold-hearted bitch sometimes. And they don't really have a friendly relationship. And she figures this out about Thea being the father. Malcolm Merlin being her father. We'll have to keep secrets. That shakens Felicity. Sarah tells Nisha she's to make up for the family that she was the undertaking. She doesn't think she can't go back to the killing. This reminds her that she swore an oath and points out she saved Sarah's life on Leah and you. They discuss their romantic feelings. Sarah went not to ask her father, Rachel, to go for her release. Sarah responds, Did you do what you have to do? Vanessa leaves peacefully. Oliver's in the arrow cave worrying about Sarah. When Sarah returns, they try to leave. She tries to leave. Diggle shows up and reveals that Laura was poisoned. Venom was found in her blood, but no drugs. Sarah realizes her family is in danger from the League. Diana shows up, leaves a sleeping Laura to get water. Someone kidnaps her, and that someone is Nessa. Oliver shows up. He fights Nessa. He nearly comes close to killing Nessa, but doesn't. Yeah. She's like, I'll give you one day to return. She'll kill her mother if she doesn't. Oliver vows to find her, though. Sebastian calls Oliver. That's just why he's pulling his support. Myra and Sebastian meet, and he warns her to drop out of the race. Claims he doesn't like the idea of destroying his friend's mother. Quentin asks Sarah where she met the arrow. She doesn't give him a straight answer. Claiming the Vigilante Club. Taking out the arrow. Sarah and Quentin, he then quickly himself a poison bean. Before Myra's campaign, though, Oliver senses something is going on with Felicity and asks, What's wrong? She typically reveals her father abandoned her. She didn't get up along with her mother. She is scarred of losing Oliver as well. Nessa does call Sarah. They have that fight, like I mentioned. Quentin's going to tell her the truth. Just then, though, Sarah calls her. She finds Diana and needs Quentin's help. Quentin leaves without telling Laura anything. Walter brings Oliver to the stage. It appears Felicity just told him the truth. Oliver is shaken and starts to slow and emotional. He whispers like, I know. And he goes to Felicity. Felicity's like, Felicity, just tell me what's wrong. She tells him about, Thea being Malcolm's daughter, and, as Myra's getting ready to tell the public about her opening her campaign for mayor for the city of Sterling City. Sterling City. I was like, I know. And this puts a rift and a strain between his mother relationship. They return to the air cave and find the pipe viper Venom missing. Oliver thinks Sarah intends to kill Nissa and believes that they're coming together. They're afraid if she succeeds. Yeah, Sarah nearly poisons herself, and she's like, and Nissa just says, no, no, I don't want you to die. Yeah. Quentin rushes in, tries to call for an ambulance. Nissa attacks Quentin, but the arrow shows up and battles her. That's where Nettie kills her. They continue to fight. Sarah comes over and believes with him not to kill Nissa. The arrow rushes to Sarah's side, gives her some Lee and UN herbs to save her life. Try to that Sarah's okay. Nissa responds, in the name of Ra's al Ghul, I release you. So she lets her go. Nissa and the arrow then vanish as the police, Quentin and Diane, arrive. Sarah's prepares to brace her. Eventually, Laura is able to see her because of this from a short distance. She's shocked to see that her sister is alive. Oliver grants his mother in the mansion, furious, and says, I will continue to support your campaign, but as father and daughter, as mother and son, I refuse to talk. She's like, Oliver, Oliver. And this puts a heavy strain on the relationship that they can't find out about this. Probably you and I are done. Oliver then just walks out. Much to Myra's please, Diane is relieved that she was right about Sarah being still alive. With the Queen's Gambit, Laura rants that Sarah got to the Queen's Gambit, but the boyfriend didn't bother to at least contact them. And this pisses Laura off. Laura's like, I'm not happy to see you. Get out. She's like, I'm sorry, Sarah. And then she walks out and Sarah's like, get out. There was a beer bottle of her sister. Hits her with it. And then you have Slade. We see Slade again, warning Sebastian to underestimate Myra. Tells him that he'll take care of the situation with her. That he's going to reveal himself to Oliver that he's alive. Sarah's been crying. It isn't happy to meet her. Just to go with Laura sometime. When Sarah asks what's wrong with him, Oliver says that his mother isn't thought he was. Sarah tells Oliver she knows for certain, and then they passively share a kiss. Now in the flashbacks, though, 6 years ago, Quentin is cooking lunch with the phone with Lucas Hilton, discussing the suspect, Diana. You see them in the past. Diana has this weird looking hair. And then, we see Sarah, the wacky teenager that she is, and Laura seeing on TV. Of course, her sister behind her back having an affair, or, secret relationship behind her back. That night, the Laura spots Sarah texting on her phone and wonders who she's talking to and hides it from her. Quentin is watching football. Laura arrives, though they see the thing on TV about missing. Laura breaks down in tears over Oliver's fate as Quentin tries to console her. Myra arrives and telling Quentin and Laura that Sarah's only out with Oliver in this flashback. Yeah, but good episodes. Okay, I think it's these next two episodes. Is it? Oh, okay. No, the next episode is called Time of Death. Time of Death. The episode opens up with these two men getting through a robbery outside. William Stockman is a corporate genius, able to tell them exactly which move to make. And he's like the clock king or whatever. Oliver and Sarah start a relationship, start sleeping together again. But, he gives them time. Yeah. You know, Felicity watches Sarah and Oliver, they talk about their training together, talk about their injuries or whatever. And Felicity's like, well, I got an injury in my face. I thought that was funny. That Felicity's feeling that maybe she's not a good part of the team. She tries to get involved with the scar on her mouth. And Sarah's like, well, that's cute. You know, Oliver's telling he's hosting a welcome back party for her at his place, saying that's the Queen family tradition. Sarah tries to argue it, not to do it, but between her and Laura, but when Oliver refuses to bring his promotion, separating her, really kind of talk for homecoming. Sarah says that for this time being, it's the best that no one knows about their relationship to spare a lot of awkward feelings. As Oliver leaves, Sarah notices Felicity gazing wistfully at them while trailing with Diggle. Then back on the island, though, with flashbacks, Slade, Oliver, and Sarah discuss what to do when they spot a small plane. The plane crashes, though, but explodes and it was shot down. And in this episode, I think it was this episode where Sarah talks to this man who is the father of her friend Sydney, Sin. And they realize that, that good friend of hers is in trouble. Well, she promises the father she'll look after her when she goes back to Rome City, which Sarah does, of course. And back in the present, the men from the opening heist bring a device to their boss. Stockman, or Plot King, you can call him, stabs one of his own with a large clock hand for disobeying him. And he also is able to hack the Arrow Cave, talking to Felicity. The Lance family arrive at the Queen Mansion for Sarah's, but Laura is not there. Sarah pretends not to notice in order to protect her canary identity. Oliver calls Laurel, who is home drinking wine, tries to persuade her to give Sarah a chance. Quentin and Oliver then talk about Laurel needing more time to come to terms with his return. Quentin apologizes to Oliver for being so hard on him, and he, forgives him. Oliver and Myra are still cold with each other. Thea seems to notice that they're not talking, and Oliver, they just ignore each other. Quentin and Oliver go get notifications of a robbery. The body of the man Stockman killed has been found. Quentin tells the Arrow and the Canary that he knows the guy. They use all the death of a skeleton key, which can be used to open any bank vault. Sarah arrives at the Arrow Cave, finds Felicity in workout clothes, trying to practice some training time. Sarah gives Felicity some tips, trying to help her out. Back in the island, though, you have these three examine the pilot. The radio is ruined, the pilot is injured. Oliver and Slade leave to get some medical supplies. Quentin tries to see Laurel. They talk about Sarah's return. They, want to invite Oliver over for dinner. They start to have a dinner. Quentin is called away, though, to the bank robbery. The Arrow and Canary show up at the robbery, located nearby signal. It distracts the Arrow with him hacking into and Felicity. But I think Sarah, Canary is able to attack one of them with her bow staff. Sarah and Oliver are at the Vernon. Theo pulls Oliver aside to talk to him about his relationship with her mother. He says nothing, and Thea states that she doesn't like secrets. Felicity has beefed up their hardware security to avoid future intrusions or somebody trying to hack them. Felicity finds out who the mastermind is, William Stockman, the Clock King, and he's like, "Well, there's nothing you two can do." So they go to dinner with Laurel and Diana, and Quentin thinks that him and Diana get together. It's like, "No, I'm going back to Central City. My life is there. I'm with somebody." And Laura's like, "This is all crap. All pretending happy here." And she gets mad, storms off, telling Sarah off. It's like, "I'm done with this family." And she even tells Oliver off too. You know, goes back taking pills and stuff. Felicity opens up about feeling around Sarah. She is great, find her, and really good computers. Diggle then says, "Well, your skills are valuable to us as well, Felicity, because she is good with computers." The Lance family dinner at Laura's place quickly turns to disaster when Quentin talks to combat Starling City. Laura angrily berates them. Yeah. Then you have back on the dying pilot that mentioned that was Sydney. I already mentioned that. Oliver follows Laura into the hallway. She yells at him for his behavior. Oliver thinks that Laura has problems, just not doing good enough for taking responsibility for what she's done wrong. Felicity places all of her money in his bank vault to lure out William. She later calls Oliver and reveals that she's waiting at the bank's computer. Felicity does this. Eventually, they fight some of his men, and he's got a gun on Canary, almost comes close to killing, shooting Felicity. Felicity's like, he sets this pin on without the Stockman knowing, and she shocks him, which was badass for her to do. And I was like, Felicity, I appreciate you, like, you're my girl. But she does outsmart him. Now, Felicity might not have the toughness, but she does have the brains. She proves that in this episode, and why she's a part of the Arrow team. Oliver asks if she really go to the hospital. Felicity declines. She's like, that's one of my wounds I'm proud of. Which I like that. Because she did fall out there. I was like, well, you're the, you know, yeah. I already mentioned that. Okay, Oliver heads upstairs and finds Sarah behind the bar. That Leah hired to serve drinks in the bar. Sydney arrives at Vernon to talk to Sarah, but Sarah assures them that she wants to be her little sister. Back on the island, though, Sarah looks at pictures of Sydney. Oliver and Slade come back after finding some medical supplies. Like, we can't do nothing for the pilot. He's dead. But she does keep his promise to the pilot. And they go take the freighter Ivo ship to Amazon. Quentin attends the anonymous meeting. Laura enters and steps opposite to him. Quentin really smiles at his daughter. Upon arrival, which Laura returns. Oliver comes home, sees that his mother's meeting with the gentleman. Is like, and of course, it's Slade Wilson. And Slade's like, hello, Oliver. Hello, Mr. Queen. Nice to meet you. And a bit of handshake. And Oliver's like, shocked to see Slade alive, his former friend alive. Okay, that was time of death. And my next favorite is called, let's see, The Promise. The Promise. The episode opens up with Oliver, where Slade comes in the house. They're doing their Marta that Oliver just had made a generous donation to her campaign. And Oliver tries to take a stab and was like, no, kid, I'm going to get revenge on you. You know, Oliver teases, messes with Oliver, like being nice to his sister and nice to Roy. And they're seeing the paintings, but you see that Slade puts like these little, tiny little cameras in their house, sneaking into it. And he's being rude. And Oliver tells Oliver, next time, Oliver, I have a guest, you're going to be real like that. Don't bother coming over here to my house. This is my home. Don't ever be rude to one of my guests like that ever again. And Slade tells him outside, I almost knew I was going to get revenge on you, kid. And that happens now as it's progressing. Then back on the island, though, you have Oliver running around with the island, shooting targets with his bow. Condition, yeah. Well, they try to shoot at Slade, but somebody knocks him out. Somebody's working for him. You know, doesn't work. I like when Oliver, he's shooting bows on the island. He's getting really good at it. Slade, Oliver, and Sarah discuss their plan for attacking the freighter. As heavily guarded, Oliver takes Sarah aside and asks her about the drug. Thinks Iowa should never be allowed to control it. They were unsure what Slade would do when Slade agreed, saying that he should burn it. They were surprised. The drug, Sarah mentions that Slade is going to kill Ivo for what happened to Shadow. Oliver chooses Sarah over Shadow. He's like, if he finds that out, he might kill you as well. They agree to kill Ivo before Slade gets to him. Slade, Oliver, and Sarah share a drink and toast to Shadow. Slade mentioned that he and Billy were planning to save it for a rainy day, in case they last on the island. Oliver wants Sarah to tell his family that he's changed if he doesn't survive the attack. She wants him to tell her family he's died in the Queen's Gambit if she dies. Oliver agrees. Oliver has a nightmare featuring Shadow, who blames him for choosing Sarah over her. She's like, He's like, "You let me die," Oliver's like stabbing him in this nightmare. As they gear up, though, and I like that this episode focused more on the island. That was cool. Them infiltrating the freighter, Ivo's ship, because Ivo wants to change the world. He tries to convince Sarah to come back on this radio. He's like, "Hey, listen up," and he sees True Colors like, "Listen up, bitch. You're gonna give me what I want. I'm gonna kill you, and your friends." Then they meet Anatoly, who was the Russian guy we saw in the episode of Diggle helping to save Lilo. Lila, you know, the island they use her to explosion on the speech. I mean, on the beach. Oliver uses this arrow. He messes up. I was like, "Don't mess again, kid," but he doesn't get it this time. Oliver has tried multiple times, but the first arrow doesn't work right away, and he wants him captured alive. Oliver trips while running, as of course I was about ready to do more of the Mercurial experiment on some more men. Oliver knows that he said he would come back. Ivo puts Oliver in his chair and demands the location of his friends. Oliver refuses to talk, and Ivo injects him with the truth serum. Myra asks Slade about his love life. Slade mentions having children and telling that he lost someone special about having lost. Slade mentions wanting to see the art, and Oliver wants Slade to leave. Back on the front, though, Oliver is asked about his name and where he was born. Oliver then says that Slade and Sarah are on the freighter in the engine room. Oliver reports his name, repeats his name. In the flashback, Sarah gave Oliver a drug of truth serum. We see Slade and Sarah on the freighter. Slade goes after I was man. In the present day, though, oh, I already mentioned this. They do show Slade some of their favorite paintings, but it's more like Slade's there to bug him, like you know, get under Oliver's skin. Slade cuts through Ivo's men. He puts his Deathstroke mask on like his friend Billy had in the first one. He puts this other Deathstroke mask on and starts killing some men. Oliver bursts in, knocks Ivo to the ground. He doesn't kill Ivo, and Slade walks in behind Oliver. Ivo yells Slade that Oliver was choosing between Sarah and Shadow, and he's like, "It wasn't, And he says, "Did your friend know that you chose Shadow over Sarah? Chose Sarah over Shadow, and you're the reason she died. I may pull the trigger, yes, but you chose to kill her instead." And because as Oliver's behind him, then Slade is right behind him, hears this, takes his mask off, and attacks Oliver. The ship saved from Slade's. It's supposed to the ship save Oliver from Slade's wrath, though. The prisoners get ready to escape, but before Oliver can jump back get to the island, Slade like grabs his leg and puts him in prison. Like, "You're gonna know what pain and extortion is gonna feel like." Oliver starts torturing him, and then comes the captain himself. Then the present day Diggle aims for a far shot. Yeah. Diggle is about to make a headshot, but somebody knocks him out before he can pull the trigger. Slade mentions that Diggle was still alive. Slade tells him they're to fulfill his promise. Another flashback though, Sarah and some of the prisoners have reached the shore. Okay, looking at the time, but she realizes Oliver's not there. On the freighter, Slade has the crew bring Oliver forward and he meets with Ivo. He's tortured him too. Slade gives Ivo a gun and tells him to show Slade how he killed, but instead shooting Oliver. He wants Oliver to know pain and despair. Meanwhile, Slade is staring at the screen with the video of the Queen mentioning. We see a brief flick and we see that his injured eye, which Oliver put an arrow into. Then the episode is but a great episode of how Slade went insane and in the present day as well. But I love the flashbacks in this episode as well. I love that we got more on that to the island and stuff. So that was the promise. Okay, these next two episodes, they don't really contribute to this season of Arrow, in my opinion. These two that I thought were okay were Suicide Squad, which honestly I didn't care too much about. But there were things I liked in the episode. where like you have Oliver Queen in the middle of the night. Oliver wakes up from a nightmare, turns around, sees Sarah, then it's Shadow's lying body. You see Oliver throughout this episode. You know, his Russian friend, he like gets at him to find Slade Wilson. He's doing everything he can. You see him in his airsuit walking at night, and you see maybe Slade following him in his Deathstroke costume, and reminds him of the island of the Cut Eye and stuff. And Oliver's so busy trying to find him. Then we meet John. We see John and Lila teaming up with the Suicide Squad thanks to Amanda Waller. John is trying to protect her as well, Felicity as well. You see Lila and John, they get back together and they're sleeping together. They leave the hotel room, and then they get met by Amanda Waller, who has a mission for both of them. They need to retrieve a nerve agent from an arms dealer named Ilmodor, a man. John Doe will say, we do see the history of that, how they met this man, and they put him in prison next to Lila, and that's where her and her and Diggle met. Now, this team consists of Floyd Lawton, Ben Turner, Mark Shraver, who are Bronze Tiger, Deadshot, and Sharpnel. And then we get Harley Quinn saying, "You have same issues" or something like that. We had a little cameo from Harley Quinn, which I thought was pretty funny. I like that. But the whole thing with them going on this mission, looks beautiful in this dress. Deadshot's get one of the pieces of the Suicide Squad. I think it's Sharpnel. He tries to run the heck out of her, but as being the part of the Suicide Squad or Task Force, as she calls it, she puts a bomb in their heads. Sharpnel tries to run out of it, tries to escape, and she blows his head up. And he's like, he's just a casualty. He better learn his lesson. And Deadshot's got to make a sacrifice, and John talks him out of it. Whether they're about to shoot each other, but tells him out of honor. He's like, honor John. He's able to get him stopped though. Oliver also tells Sarah to stay away. John and Suicide Squad. John and the Suicide Squad arrive at the fine auction. Again, I didn't care about much of this going on. I didn't really have much interest. But they are able to save the squad. Lila and them are able to get the bombs out of their neck. But I do like the end episode. Amanda gets visited by Oliver. I'm sorry for rushing through this, but I didn't really care for this episode. It was okay. It wasn't awful, but there wasn't much of a Suicide Squad in here. It wasn't really exciting what was going on here. But I did like the whole thing going Oliver trying to track Slade down and having those nightmares of him. And like I said, being on the rooftop, seeing the the Deathstroke mask with the arrow and like the left eye, I think. And then him visiting Amanda, telling me he needs to see a friend of a new player. They call him Deathstroke. Ends there. And then another K episode of mine should be called Birds of Prey. We do get Helena back. Okay, just a couple more episodes, guys. We're almost done. Okay, that's Birds of Prey. So the Arrow and the Canary are watching over Quentin as he closes on a drug dealer. When things get held up on the drug dealer, things get heated up, they end up pitching in to help. But Quentin gets shot. Sarah eventually attacks the man who shot him. You know, he's like, honey, don't do that. You need to kill him. You don't need to do that. Reprimand Sarah for doing that. Frank Bertinelli is brought into custody. If you remember his daughter Helena Bertinelli, Helena, who was now I forget what her name is, the Huntress. She's out to kill her father. She wants to murder her father. Oliver, of course, had to stop her. Sarah eventually attacks the man who shot him and throws him in a window. Quentin, yeah. But Frank Bertinelli, he's been tracking Finelli. For the past year, Felicity has been with Helena killing members of the Mafia in search of her father. She's been killing over the years. You see in a flashback, you see Slade torturing Oliver on the on the boat's engine. The boat's engine gets damaged. Not Oliver. Slade ends up ripping the man's head off screen, killing him. Then he tells her, "We need someone to fix the show. Bring this guy with me that needs to." And this guy first, like, "No, I'm not coming." But they were to tie him down eventually, and then totally. Back in the prison, Laura's in the AA meeting. She says she feels like she can't make it out there by herself. Here's the second meeting. She receives a text from her boss, Adam. Calls Laura to his office and asks her to return to work to prosecute Frank Bertinelli. Felicity sees that her car has been rented under for 2 minutes. Okay. Rented under Helena's fiance's name. Oliver, Sarah, and Rory track down the car. Turns out to be a decoy, but the error only stops Rory from killing the guy by calling him speedy. Rory and Oliver talk about the fact he will face danger, and Rory's only stuff in the cave to work out and to even shoot arrows. Felicity turns on the TV and sees that Laura is prosecuting Frank. Sarah drops by to see Laura at work, and somewhat the relationship, they do give each other a hug and apologize to each other, which was nice. Back in the island though, he's staring the men who escaped the ship. They turn their farmer hideout. Back in the prison, though, Sarah is worried Oliver won't kill Elena in order to save Laura, and she's going to, but says he loves Laura just like Sarah does and won't let anything happen to her. Oliver pays Laura a visit. Frank is brought up through the front door. To Laura's surprise, a smoke bomb is fired in the room. Helena shows up, and Helena captured. She has some men working with her, and they're gonna kill these hostages. You know, and the police have to talk her out of it. Helena ends up taking hostages. She demands her father and see if he's not brought to her. She says, "Laura, we're alike. I had issues with my father too, but like we're nothing alike." You know. Quentin then calls Arrow. Oliver is standing right next to him. Quentin does look at him in shock though. Oliver brushes off and says, my broker's calling or something. He just makes up some excuse. Hmm. Sarah arrives at the courthouse though as Canary and helps fight off a few of Eleanor's goons to help save Sarah. Laura, if she doesn't know it's Sarah in the mask, Sarah's able to like Oliver. I guess received a voice changer. You know. While they hold up in the room though, Laura makes a grab for a bottle of booze. Laura says that this bottle was not going to help out. Convince her not to do it. Nevertheless, she's talking to Laura tells the Canary how strong her sister is, Sarah. Under her Canary disguise, convinces her not to drink the liquor. The Canary then gets messages from Arrow that they have a way out. Laura won't leave with the rest of the hostages, which I like that. I like that Laura has a hero inside of her too that she'll know that these people die, and then Canary, of course, agrees to it. She says, "I'm what I need to be." Oliver doesn't want Sarah to engage in like, "Well, I am what I am." This leads to a flashback to the island. Slade puts on with Rodeo. He's, you know, doing more cuts on his body, torturing Oliver as revenge for what he did to Shadow. Helena participates to execute a hostage, but Sarah and Laura show up. Sarah fights with Helena, throws her out the window. Second fight, she does better though. She then throws Sarah out of a window, about to kill her, before Arrow shows up and shoots the weapon out of her hand. He captures Laura over the phone, and she tells her, once you let the darkness in, it never comes out of your heart. They lead an assault on the building. Helena manages to escape, though, in a police uniform, which I thought was smart, with Laura as her hostage. Sarah fault vows do what she needs to protect those she loves. In a toilet, he attempts to distract Hendrix. They manage to knock him out, tie him up. The Arrow and Sarah meet Elena in a secret location. They have Frank. She has Laura, just before Elena is able to kill her father. Helena and Sarah end up in another fight. Quentin saves the Arrow from being shot by a tactical team. Frank Bertinelli gets shot, but Helena starts crying, realizing that she's not happy now. Oliver himself, though, meets with Helena. He's trying to be better than he used to be. She feels alone. She's like, even though I killed my father, it doesn't feel any better. The pain's still there. What have I done? I'll try to get you help, Helena. You will go to prison. I can try to help you, okay? Everything will be okay. District Attorney Kate Spencer tells Laura that Adam did not have the authorization to hire her, and that she did lose her job officially. Laura responds by saying if she's not hired back, she supposed to the fact that one of her ADs was behind the hostage situation. That is Adam. Kate is surprised and impressed, and that Laura says like, "Fine, you get your job back." You know, Laura defends her by saying that what Helena said to her before. Oliver sees Thea in tears. She says that she caught Roy kissing another girl. She's upset, telling the truth. Foremost, being their mother, they think Oliver is the only one who doesn't keep secrets from her, much to Oliver's sadness. Watching the security systems of the cave, Roy watches sadly as Thea leaves. Felicity and John are just about to leave. John confronts him for Roy then holds the present he gave to Thea. But become rage, he crushes it, we're driving to the ground. As Thea walks alone, Slade Wilson then opens the door and asks her to come in. He's like, "It's okay, come with me." And then this is the episode where they get into the car. Oh yeah, because he cheated on her, I guess, in this episode of kissing the girl in the storage room. But anyway, it was okay. I mean, again, I liked the Helen Bernie character, but again, I was more interested in what was going on with Slade. So now back to my favorite episodes. Okay, we've got 6 episodes left. That is Deathstroke. Hours and 11 minutes in. Okay. I'm just looking at the time of the video. I will make a part 2 of this if I have to, folks. Probably will be. Intentionally pretending to comfort Thea, though, after her breakup. Slade uses his opportunity to kidnap her, though. He's like, "Get out of the car." And then Brother Blood, attacks her, knocks her out. Felicity tells Oliver about the messages from the past month that he is attending the board, but too focused on Slade to care. Oliver shows up early in the meeting. Isabel lied about the time of the meeting. Talking to Isabel, Felicity learns that Myra was there. He learns that there was a debate that night, that he's learned about someone he's not. Oliver tries to call Thea for the debate. Sebastian shows up and claims that she's probably running late due to the barricade of cars. Laura then approaches Sebastian for the accusation, not realizing she told the truth. During the debate, video showing Thea had been kidnapped with the message, "How much is Thea Queen's life to you?" And then Slade ends up in jail. They're saying, "Why is he doing this?" Oliver tries to question him in the interrogation room. He's like, "Revenge for what you did to lose a loved one." He gets, there's no proof though, and people are like, the person's like, "Was they wasting why they accused you?" What you did. Looks like gets off scot free. Still gets under all of her skin. Lower than a part. Sorry.